The English Charter of Queen Elizabeth I. Francis Drake's voyage around the world in 1580s and the English victory over the Spanish Armada in 1588 generated a new sense of enterprise in the British, encouraging sailors to venture out to the east. As the knowledge grew of his high profits earned by the Portuguese in eastern trade, English traders too wanted a share. So in 1599, a group of English merchants calling themselves the Merchant Adventurers formed a company. On December 31, 1600, Queen Elizabeth I issued a charter with rights of the exclusive trading to the company named the Governor and Company of Merchants of London trading into the East Indies. Initially, a monopoly of 15 years was granted, which is May 1609 was extended definitely by a fresh charter. As the Dutch were already concentrating more on the East Indies, the English turned to India in search of its textiles and other commodities of trade. Progress of the English Company. Foretold in West and South. Captain Hawkins arrived in the court of Jahangir in April 1609 itself, but the mission to establish a factory at Surat didn't succeed due to opposition from the Portuguese. And Hawkins left Agra in November 1611. In 1611, the English had started trading at Masulipatam on the southeastern coast of India and later established a factory there in 1616. It was in 1612 that Captain Thomas Best defeated the Portuguese in the Sea of Surat, and an impressed Jahangir granted a permission to the English in early 1613 to establish a factory at Surat under Thomas Ellsworth. In 1615, Sir Thomas Roe came as an accredited ambassador of James I to the court of Jahangir, staying on there till February 1619. Though he was unsuccessful in concluding a commercial treaty with the Mughal emperor, he was able to secure a number of privileges, including permission to set up factories at Agra, Ahmedabad, and Brouch. The English company did not have a smooth progress. It had to contend with the Portuguese and the Dutch in the beginning, but the changing situations helped them and turned things in their favor. Bombay had been gifted to King Charles II by the King of Portugal as dowry when Charles married the Portuguese Prince Catherine in 1662. Bombay was given over to the East India Company on an annual payment of £10 only in 1668. Later, Bombay was made the headquarters of shifting the seat of the Western Presidency from Surat to Bombay in 1687. So there was a tacit peace between the English and the Portuguese now. There was also an Anglo-Dutch compromise as mentioned earlier by which the Dutch agreed not to interfere with the English company's trade in India. Thus the English were rid of two arch rivals in India. The English company's position was improved by the Golden Farman issued to them by the Sultan of Golconda in 1632. On a payment of 500 pagodas a year, they earned the privilege of trading freely in the ports of Golconda. A member of the Masulipatam Council, the British merchant Francis Day, in 1639 received from the ruler of the Chandragiri permission to build a fortified factory at Madras, which later became the Fort St. George and replaced Masulipatam as the headquarters of the English settlement in South India. Therefore, the English extended their trading activities to the east and started factories at Hariharpur in the Mahanadi Delta and at Balasore in Odisha in 1633. Foothold in Bengal. Bengal was then a large and rich province in India, advanced in trade and commerce. Commercial and political control over Bengal naturally appeared an attractive position to the profit-seeking English merchants. Bengal was also an important province of the Mughal Empire. Shah Shuja, the Subedar of Bengal in 1651, allowed the English to trade in Bengal in return for an annual payment of Rs 3,000. In lieu of oil duties, factories in Bengal were started at Hooghly 1651 and other places like Kasim Bazar, Patna and Rajmahal. Nevertheless, despite the privilege of the Farmans, the company's business was now and then obstructed by custom officers in the local checkposts who asked for payment of tolls. In pursuance of its changed policy, the company wanted to have a fortified settlement at Hooghly so that force could be used if necessary. William Hedges, the first agent and governor of the company in the Bengal, appealed to Shaista Khan, the Mughal governor of Bengal in August 1682, for redressal of the grievance. As nothing came out of the appeal, hostilities broke out between the English and the Mughals. 4 years later, Hooghly was sacked by the Imperial Mughals in October 1686. The English retaliated by capturing the imperial forts at Thana, modern Garden Reach, raided Hijli in East Midnapur and stormed the Mughal fortification at Balasore. However, the English were forced to leave Hooghly and were sent to an unhealthy location at the mouth of the river Ganga. After the Mughal raid on Hooghly, Job Charnock, a company agent, started negotiations with the Mughals so as to return to a place called Satanuti. Charnock signed a treaty with the Mughals in February 1619 and returned to Satnauti in August 1690. Thus, an English factory was established on February 10, 1691, the day an imperial farman was issued permitting the English to continue contentedly their trade in Bengal on payment of rupees 3000 a year in lieu of all dues. A zamindar in Bardhaman district, Sobha Singh, rebelled, subsequently giving the English the pretext they were looking for to fortify their settlement at Satnauti in 1696. In 1698, the English succeeded in getting the permission to buy the zamindari of the three villages of the Satnauti, Govindpura and Kalighat from their owners on payment of rupees 1200. The fortified settlement was named Fort William in the year 1700, when it also became the seat of the Eastern Presidency with Sir Charles Eyre as its first president. Farrukhsiyar's Farmans in 1715. An English mission led by John Sherman to the court of the Mughal Emperor Farrukhsiyar secured three Farmans, giving the company many valuable privileges in Bengal, Gujarat, and Hyderabad. The Farmans thus obtained were regarded the Magna Carta of the company. Their important term number one was in Bengal, the company's imports and exports were exempted from additional customs duties, excepting the annual payment of 3000 rupees as settled earlier. Point number two, the company was permitted to issue dastaks passes for the transportation of such goods. Point number three, the company was permitted to rent more lands around Calcutta. Point number four, in Hyderabad, the company retained its existing privilege of freedom from duties in trade and had to pay the prevailing rent only for Madras. Next point, in Surat, for an annual payment of rupees 10,000, the East Indies Company was exempted from the levy of all duties. It was decreed that the coins of the company minted at Bombay were to have currency throughout the Mughal Empire. Apparently, the English East India Company managed to earn a number of trading concessions in Bengal from the Mughal authority by means of flattery and diplomacy, but the English had to vanquish the French before they could be rid of competitors and establish their complete sway over India. Merging of two English companies. After the English Revolution of 1688, the Whigs, with their enhanced influence, opposed the monopoly of the East India Company. Thus, a rival company was formed, which deputed Sir William Norris as its ambassador to the court of Aurangzeb, January 1701 to April 1702, to gain trading privileges for itself. The new company, however, proved a failure. Under pressure from the Crown and the Parliament, the two companies were amalgamated in 1708 under the title of United Companies of Merchants of English Trading of the East Indies. This was the East India Company from 1708 to 1873, which was to establish British political power in India. For English listening practice videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon. Thank you for listening.